Happy holidays and welcome to another episode of The Caption Life, a podcast on how comics and pop culture impact life and society and vice versa. Coming to you from deep in the heart of Texas, I'm Kevin.
And from Indiana, the Hoosier State, I am Sean. Before we get started with this episode, please hit that subscribe button on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on, and follow us on social media under the username @CaptionLife on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Reddit. You can also find out more information about us and past episodes at our website, thecaptionlife.com.
That's right. Hey, Sean, knock, knock.
Who's there?
Justin.
Justin who?
Just in time for Christmas, it's a festive holiday edition of The Caption Live.
Nice.
I couldn't pass up opportunity for a bad joke to kick off the show.
That was definitely bad.
Hey, but it is the Christmas season and it's our last episode of 2021. We're getting into the spirit of Christmas with our colorful attire, our nearly matching Ninja Turtles Christmas t-shirts.
Yep. And we did not plan this at all. Like we just happened to be wearing the same kind of shirt. Yeah.
And I've got a cup of hot cocoa right here off screen. And you know, the only thing that's missing to make this feel like Christmas is nostalgia. So what we're going to do today on today's episode is we're going to take a little trip down memory lane with something we like to call Was It Great or Were We Eight? Christmas edition.
Yep.
Sean and I are going to discuss some of our favorite pop culture hallmarks of Christmases past and decide if they've stood the test of time or our memory is in decline.
Or both.
We're going to be talking about some of our favorite Christmas toys, movies, and shows and decide if they were actually really great or we were just eight, which I can now vouch for as a father. When you are eight, everything is awesome.
That's true. Yes. To kick this off, I thought maybe I could share some tidbits about Christmas and the holiday season. How's that sound?
I would love some interesting tidbits about Christmas and the holiday season.
Let's do this. So, did you know that Jingle Bells holds the Guinness World Record for the first song ever played in outer space?
I did not know that.
Yeah. So I thought that was.
Is that a record though? Like, is it a Guinness Book of World Records for like first song played in outer space?
It is recorded under the Guinness World Record. Yes. Yeah. It's like officially. And then the show notes.
Maybe the most. You'd think like it would be something like the song played most in outer space, but I mean, and when it comes to space, the time period that we're talking about, there was a lot of firsts. So
right. Well, and this is first for Earth, right? Like maybe there is a different song, you know, that another planet, extraterrestrials.
It's probably a Klingon Christmas carol.
Oh, that'd be awesome if it was. Yeah. No,
but
this is the first song ever played in outer space is Jingle Bells because it was around Christmas time. So, what do you think is the most popular Christmas holiday song?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's that stupid Mariah Carey "All I Want for Christmas Is You" because it seems
exactly
to be
right. Yeah,
it seems like every year it like jumps back to the top of like the Billboard charts.
Yeah. Yep. It definitely. Yeah. So you're right on that. It's considered the most popular song around the holidays. And
you know what? I want to go back to the Jingle Bells thing, and we could do something and challenge Mariah Carey. Like the Klingon Christmas Carol seems like something that may be an untouched marketplace. What if
a very very specific niche?
What if we? But hear me out. What if we got together and we created an album of Christmas carols that were sung in like nerd pop culture languages, like Klingon and Dothraki and like Elvish from Lord of the Rings, and I don't know what else we.
I mean, if you want to learn those languages, yeah.
I'm saying that we find people who know those languages. And
we're just like the executive producers behind the scene. Yeah,
they make the most money anyway.
Right.
We could do something with this.
That sounds good. Yeah. The world.
Like if the Chipmunks could have an album that sold like, you know, all I want for what is it? I want a hula hoop.
Christmas Don't Be Late.
Christmas song.
Right.
Yeah. Christmas Don't Be Late. There you go. then we could make money off of our Christmas album.
Right. Yeah. The world's first Christmas card was auctioned in 2001 for over $28,000. And I think technically it was 20,000 pounds because it was auctioned off in the UK, I believe, but $28,000 for the world's first Christmas card.
Christmas card.
Right. That's in existence.
Do we know who sent it?
Yeah. So the website where I found this information at is actually a really decorated card, and it was lithographed and sold at $1 each. Let's see here. It was sent by Sir Henry Cole, who was a Bath-born businessman, and he sent it to his grandmother in 1843 and was hand-colored by London illustrator John Calcott Horsley.
Okay.
Yep. So
that's a lot of stuff that I had never heard before.
I know. Yeah. Same here.
I wonder what's the most expensive Christmas card ever like auctioned off. Like it was something like royalty sent out, or like it's gotta be something like
auctioned off.
Like something like the most about, like if you had a Christmas card that was really, really valuable, like who would it be from and who would it be to?
Right. Well, I mean, I think this would be it, right?
No, but I'm saying like that was the first one, but like what if there was one?
This is the most expensive too. It just happens to be the first one. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
This is the most expensive, but it was also the first one. Yes.
Like a Christmas card from Elvis to President Nixon. Like that. it's going to be signed by Elvis. So
right.
Like I don't know. I think there's got to be something else out there.
What is the highest grossing Christmas/holiday movie of all time?
That's a tough one.
Yeah. Because there is a couple that are up there that people think about. But it's hard to figure out.
I think of
one.
Things like, okay, so like Titanic came out like in like Christmas time, but it's not a Christmas movie. Right. So I have a hard time separating those two. I'd be interesting to hear what this is.
It is Home Alone.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep, and it has made over $285 million.
It seems like that number would be higher.
Well, I mean,
like it's in its original run, you think?
No, I think this is of all time. So all the money it's made of all time, basically. So, but I mean, again, this is holiday, so it's not movie of all time. This is specifically a holiday movie of all time, which I mean, those kinds of movies always make money. Don't get me wrong. And, but yeah, I mean, this is probably just, over, I had to look and see where I got this from, but I wonder if this is just theater release or if this also includes like, I think this is just made in the theaters. So this doesn't include, like DVD or streaming or anything like that. So, yeah.
Oh, that's 285 is its gross in the United States. At the time, it grossed another 191 million worldwide for a total of 476 million, which in 1990 is a lot of money.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, this just says lifetime gross. It doesn't say, like where at specifically or anything. So yeah.
But I remember it being a huge cultural phenomenon.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Did you know that Jingle Bells was originally written as a Thanksgiving song?
Nope.
Yes.
But it does make sense because I would think that like back when Jingle Bells was written, it was probably you were probably less likely to travel at Christmas because the weather would be worse.
Well, I mean,
so dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh.
Right. I mean, if you go through the lyrics, like there's nothing in there that says, Christmas or even alludes to any sort of holiday, but it was originally written as a Thanksgiving song for a church, as a church hymn than anything else. So, and the last fact I'll share here is 1.3 billion holiday cards are sent every year. That is a lot. And that is good news for the card making industry
and the postal service. Yeah. I get a lot of like fan mail at Christmas time. A lot of people send me Christmas cards. So that's probably a good portion of that.
Right. Yeah. That's it. So,
Also,
so those are my holiday tidbits for you.
Letters from ex-girlfriends and they say they shouldn't have broken up with me. Things like that.
Nice.
Every year, Christmas, same thing.
Right. So, So those are the Christmas holiday tidbits for you.
Yeah. So let's talk about our memories of Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to talk about the things that we loved as kids. But do you have like an earliest memory of Christmas?
Well, now you put me on the spot because I haven't thought about this. So
I'll tell you mine. What do you think about it?
Okay.
So 1988 or 1989 was the year that we got a Nintendo.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, like I think I forgot about it fairly quickly because I was enamored with the Nintendo.
Right.
But I will say this, and maybe you can back me up on this. Mm-hmm. Nintendo came out when we were kids, and I don't ever remember like my parents like setting up the Nintendo. Like they gave us the box and they were like, okay, you go play with it. And maybe that's why people who are our age are like so good with technology, because our parents were crap. Like they couldn't even set the clock on the VCR, and they like all of a sudden we had this great technological gift, and we had to like learn how to like plug it in and blow into the game and stuff like that.
Right.
Like we learned by doing with technology, and I think getting the Nintendo when I was 7 years old was a huge part of that.
Right. I will say that was not my experience because my dad, being a really smart mechanic growing up, like he was fixing lawnmowers and selling them when he was 12. He was kind of like Ron Swanson in that regard, right? He always did all the, anything around the house or electronics or anything like that. He was the person that always did that. So he always set it up for us. But I think it is interesting thinking about how in this day and age, like if we want to know how to fix something or do something in that regard, we always look it up on Google or watch a YouTube video, right? So before we had this, I find it really interesting how everybody back then knew that if there was something going on with Nintendo and it wasn't working right, that you had to blow into the cartridge. And now I'm wondering, how did we all as a society know to do that, right? Like how do people come around and figure out that's what you're supposed to do? So
yeah, that's what we should be investigating. That's going to be a new
maybe it's printed in an instructional manual or something like that.
I'm guessing that it wasn't, but like how important were instructional manuals back then?
I'm sure it was more important back then than it is now because
everything's online.
Well, everything's online, and the evolution of how people write instructional manuals has been to the point to where they've been more succinct, right? Like when you look at IKEA instructional manuals, it's usually like a piece of paper. There's no words on it. So that way you don't have to print different languages or anything. It's just pictures and all that. Whereas I think back then it's like people did use instructional manuals, unless you're my dad, because he never did that until he got to a point where you literally can't figure it out. And then he would look at it. But yeah.
Yeah. Yep. No, for sure. We apologize for devolving into talk about instructional manuals on this very special episode of the Caption Live. We got a little bit off topic there, but you know what? The Nintendo was one of my favorite Christmas presents as a kid. It was not my favorite. The one that I have the most fondest memory of as a kid, it has to do with Transformers. Okay.
There you go.
Transformers. I was born in 82. Transformers came out in 84 as a toy. And I was a huge Transformers fan. I still am. I was at Universal Studios last week and riding the Transformers ride there. Still as fun as the first time I ever rode it. And I love the fact that like my daughter loves Transformers. She thinks they're cool. She likes cars because of Transform.
Nice.
Like,
there you go.
She's a car chick. But Transformers were great, and like the first Transformers, I remember Transformers and Voltron had the same feature. They were actually made out of like die-cast metal.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so like the first Transformers were real heavy. They smelled like nickels. They smelled like metal. They were real heavy, and they were super sturdy, and they were just so unique because they were cars and planes and things like that transformed into something else.
Right.
But here's the thing where my memory goes to about Transformers as a kid, and something that I wish we had now, or wish they, I mean, I guess with the way licensing works, they probably have stuff like this, but I had a licensed Transformer sleeping bag that I got for Christmas one year.
Yeah.
And I desperately now wish that they had like licensed things like that for like adults.
Right.
and they have like adult like footed pajamas and things like that now, that like you could be Spider-Man if you want to, and things like that. But I realize now like Transformers sleeping bag was something that I really, really loved as a kid. And I kind of wish that they had, that stuff like now, that because I remember like having it like laid out on the floor, and that's where I would like play with all of my Transformers and stuff like that. So for me as a kid, Transformers was the pinnacle. The Nintendo rates pretty high up there, but for me, like, because I guess it was always part of my childhood. It's probably something that I got a Transformer for my birthday every now and again, or I got one for Christmas and whatnot. That seems to stick out in my memory as something that was pretty important.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I think there are a lot of people out there who probably agree with you. And I feel like I was casually into Transformers. I wasn't like super gung ho in it. I think it was just one of those things that, you saw and like, oh, that looks really cool, but I never really got into it. But I remember having, I don't think I had the Transformers sleeping bag, but I remember seeing that as a kid. Either my friends had it or I seen it in the store. I remember having a couple Transformer that, exactly how you describe it, where it's made out of metal and it was heavier than what you probably have now and everything. So I think it's definitely for, people, who are millennials are definitely remember that as well. So yeah. For me, this is actually, I don't know how popular this is, especially when I do a Google search for this. I don't see a whole lot of things come up necessarily, but this was definitely something that I would describe as part of my Christmas holiday experience in my family growing up. And it is this Christmas decoration thing called Mr. Christmas Mickey Marching Band musical bells. Have you ever heard of seeing this?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So this is something that I remember vividly. My mom would always put up on top of what she called the library, which is really just like a three shelf bookshelf that had like some glass casing on it. But on top of it, it was probably like, 4 feet tall. On top of it, she would put like a little red knitted, shelf quilt over it. And then she would put the Mickey Mouse marching band musical bells on top of it. And it had a lot of the Mickey Mouse characters, Pluto, Goofy, Mickey, Minnie, Daisy Duck, Donald Duck. And they would all be, wearing a Santa hat and holding a mallet, and they would hit a bell, and each one, had a particular bell that they hit. And when you play it, they would hit the bells and play a Christmas song tune. And so it would play like, I think, Jingle Bells and Deck the Halls and things like that. I remember just growing up, that was something I always loved watching and listening to and playing that all the time. It was just something that I would just sit there and watch for the longest time around Christmas. So I absolutely love that. And that's something that I know I was asking my mom about this a few years ago, and apparently she doesn't know what happened to it. She doesn't know if she like has it stored somewhere we can't find it, or if she ended up like giving it a Goodwill, something like that. But I desperately want to try to find like 2 sets, one for me to have, but also one to give back to her, because that was such a huge part of our like upbringing. And we don't even and they sold their house and moved somewhere else now, so we don't even go back to our house for our childhood Christmas and to relive that at all or anything like that. So that would be such a great gift to give my mom 1 year for Christmas. But they're like selling on eBay for like $150 for that sort of thing.
I just looked it up. Mickey's marching band thing, like I totally want it now too, because it looks amazing, and it looks like it would be a lot of fun to watch. Like we have this thing that my wife got at Target when she was in high school, and it's like this caricature of Bing Crosby, and if you press a button, he like sways back and forth and sings Bing Crosby Christmas songs. And my kids love it. Like I think that something like that translates to like to every generation, that we all have this stuff. So no, I totally want to buy one for you now and send it to you for Christmas.
Right.
I've got time. So looking back on Transformers and Mickey's Marching Band, Christmas Bells, was it great or were we 8? I'm going to say based on its staying power, Transformers was great. And I'm going to say that Mickey's Marching Band is also great too, because man, it looks really cool and I want to play with it.
Yeah. I think it's great for me as a nostalgic piece, but I bet you anything, because my wife is not a knickknack person. I bet you anything, if I brought it out for Christmas, she'll be like, you have to have it somewhere that is not in my eyesight, and we can only play it like, certain time of day or whatever, because it is a loud bell, like musical set and everything. So it's not one that you want to play like in the background, because it will get annoying really quick. But like, Christmas Eve, like play that sort of thing, or even just, on like in the evening or something like that, it would be great. But I don't think it's something that you would just, have on the whole time. Otherwise you would hate it pretty quickly, I think. So, so I think that one's going to be, it is great, but also I was 8. Yeah.
Hey, there's one on sale for eBay that's in Springfield, Tennessee. Maybe that's the one that your mom like maybe sold it at a garage sale and somebody else is now selling.
Right. How much is it for?
It's $100 and then $37 for shipping.
Oh my gosh. Nah, I don't know. See if
there's more expensive ones out there.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Like every time I look it up, it's just like the cheapest I ever saw until you just mentioned now is like $150. And I think it was like gone at like the next day. Cause I was like, maybe that'll be like my big present or whatever.
Once this podcast comes out and they get this free advertising for it, it's going to be one of the most popular toys of 2021, because that's the kind of influence we have on popular culture in our era. Yeah. We are the tastemakers.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hey, some other things that I thought of that I really, really liked. One of the things I was going to give an honorable mention to was repping my boys, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. 1990 when the movie came out, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were also like a big thing. And like, look, they've had staying power as well, because we're both wearing a t-shirt with the Ninja Turtles on it 30 years later. So and we're going to talk about them in the game that we're going to play a little bit later, because they were one of the most popular presents during that time period, or popular toys. But we're going to put a pin in that and come back to it. Now I want to talk about one of my favorite Christmas like TV specials as a kid. And I think a lot of the stuff from the 80s, especially, and for the most part, we probably don't remember a lot of the stuff that was 80s specific, because our consciousness probably starts like in the late 80s, especially. Right. So we're on the cusp of between being 80s kids and 90s kids. So much of it now, you realize that the things that were created for television back in that time period was just a commercial to sell the toys. Like He-Man Masters of the Universe was essentially a series meant to sell the toys. G.I. Joe, same thing. Right.
It's still to this day.
and honestly, honest to goodness, those kind of things kind of suck. Like if you look back on it, they don't necessarily hold up. And I wouldn't debate somebody about like their staying power, because honest to goodness, in 2021, I can't force myself to watch a whole episode because it's just too cringe to me.
Right.
But one of the things that I love that came from that time period is from 1983, and it is a Mickey's Christmas Carol.
Yes.
It's my favorite version of the classic Charles Dickens tale. And here's the thing, my consciousness, I don't remember seeing it, or I don't remember being aware of who Scrooge McDuck was. Oh yeah. Until DuckTales came along.
Right.
So the way I remember it, DuckTales was already a thing. And then I saw Mickey's Christmas Carol and I was like, oh, it's amazing that Scrooge McDuck was born to play this role of Ebenezer Scrooge. Like it's in his name. Right. And it just didn't click to me that Scrooge McDuck, like like that's where his name came from. Like as a
Right.
child, I was just like, he's a great actor and he's playing this role that he was born to play. But the Mickey's Christmas Carol is it's full of nostalgia. It's full of our favorite Disney characters. By far, Goofy's most serious role ever in a film was as Jacob Marley.
Right.
But one of the things that it sticks out to me so much, besides the fact that I love it, Tiny Tim with a little bitty Mickey Mouse, Tiny Tim, and Scrooge McDuck, like all these things, is the Ghost of Christmas Past is this giant that they've used in Disney animation. If you look back, I guess it's the Jack and the Beanstalk giant. They kind of use the same model to do the Ghost of Christmas Past for the movie. But if you look back all the way to the brave little Tailor, which is from 1938, which is like just a year after 10 years into Mickey's life, just a year after Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, they did this short film called The Brave Little Tailor, where Mickey faces off against a giant because he gets this reputation of killing 7 in one blow. But people thought he was talking about giants, but it was really flies.
Right. I remember seeing that actually. It's the same kind of basic model. The big giant with the bulbous nose and goofy grin. As a child, and even sometimes to this day, I have a reoccurring dream of that giant, like walking through the neighborhood of the home that I grew up in. Right.
And I lived on like an acre plus lot that had a lot of trees on it. So I would look up from my yard and see this giant like towering above all these like fully grown trees. And he would just stop by to say hi. Like he wasn't there to like to be threatening or whatever. He was just our neighborhood giant.
Right.
And I'm almost 40 now, and I still think about that from time to time. Like it was so vivid to me.
Right.
But for those reasons, like Mickey's Christmas Carol stands out to me as like one of my favorite like Christmas specials.
Nice. And this isn't part of my list, but what is interesting for me to share is that I have 2 all-time favorite holiday movies. One of them is Elf. It's by far one of my favorite holiday movies, but I would say on top of that is actually a Muppets Christmas Carol.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting how yours is Christmas Carol was Mickey, and then mine is the Muppets Christmas Carol, as that being like our favorite holiday
and you can
movie.
You can watch both of them on Disney Plus now. Not a sponsor.
Right. Right. So, but if you are listening, Disney,
no, for real though, you can buy us out anytime. We would we would come very cheap to be part of the Disney family.
That's true. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, we would take just an annual pass at this point for our families.
Right. Second on my list is actually a movie called A Christmas Story.
Oh, well, where did that laugh come from?
Well, because I know you had mentioned before how you hate Christmas Story, and I don't
hate A Christmas Story. Here's the thing: is that I've never actually watched all of it.
Right.
Because I've on is it TBS? They
TNT.
play it for TNT. They play it for 24 hours at Christmas time at some point.
They did.
And I've caught bits and pieces of it, and I've never got the draw. Like why is this cult classic so well loved? So I don't get it. Maybe I need to make a pact. We should make a pact that maybe we watch Christmas Story together this year and like live tweet it.
Well, I'm good with that. We should totally do that. Yeah,
I'll give it its fair shake.
Yeah, no, let's totally do that. Well, and I'll share why it is a part of my childhood Christmas, why it's important. And I think when I explain this, it'll probably make a lot more sense to you, like why it has impact on me the way it did than it may have for you. So the movie Christmas Story is based on a book called In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash. And it's actually, if you ever read the book, it actually doesn't take place in Christmas. A lot of it actually takes place over the summer. But then when they converted to a movie, they decided that they want to put it in a Christmas theme for the whole thing. So a lot of it did take place over Christmas, but it was like more of a year-round thing. And so a lot of the parts of the story that you see in the movie, some of it actually happened over the summer. But it takes place in Indiana, so it already has a specific, attention catcher for me, because you don't see a lot of movies that take place in Indiana. So it was like, okay, we definitely need to watch this because this is something that we can relate to, growing up in Indiana. But it was something that has always been part of our family upbringing, in that we always watch it. When they started doing on TNT for 24 hours, we always ran it at our house, like for the longest time. Like, I think we haven't done it for the last few years at my parents' house for a number of reasons. But, up until I think about 5 years ago, they would always have that playing in the house, just from the moment it started on Christmas Eve to the moment it ended on Christmas Day, basically. So it was also the movie that got me into wanting like a BB gun, right? Because that was the big thing, is that Ralphie wanted a BB gun. It's like, oh man, I would love a BB gun. And of course, I grew up with guns. So I'm no stranger to guns or anything like that, because my dad had guns. We were always responsible about it and everything, but it wasn't anything new to me with that. But the other thing is that they actually filmed the outdoor scenes of the house in Cleveland, Ohio. And when I was in college, apparently some guy found out that the owner of that house was selling it on eBay, and he bought the house and actually turned it into a Christmas Story museum.
Very
cool.
My
my family growing up loving that movie decided that we were going to go and visit the museum. And so we all took a trip out there and stayed the night in Cleveland, Ohio, and went to the museum. And it was just fascinating. Like if you know anything about holiday or Hollywood production and everything, when they do the outdoor scenes, it's never, at the actual house where they do the indoor scenes. So the indoor scenes is always in a stage or a studio. So when you go inside the house, you're kind of expecting it to be similar to what you see in the movie. And it's not like that at all. But you got to see like a lot of cool things. Like this guy spent a lot of money in investing into creating a museum and got like all these really cool things. So now my sister has a couple of versions of the leg lamp that's really well known from the movie. So it just ended up being like a real strong part of my upbringing, that we were just always enamored by it. We always loved the jokes and stuff like that. And so it's just a part of my Christmas identity, as a childhood, or it's just always been part of my Christmas. It's always been a part of my childhood around the Christmas holidays. So.
And then of course that kid grew up to work for Tony Stark, and technically a Christmas Story.
That's right.
Maybe I should give it a bit more of a chance, because Christmas Story is canon
Elf.
in the MCU. Yeah.
Yeah. And the elf in Will Ferrell's Elf.
Yeah. Oh, he's in that too, right?
He is. Yeah. He was like the lead elf in that. And, him and John Favreau are really good friends in real life.
Yeah. I think that's what the connection is. Yeah.
Right. Yep. That's exactly right.
So that's pretty great. All right. So I'm going to say yours, is it great or were we 8 is to be determined, because I need to give it a shot, but I'll let you judge mine.
No, I mean, honestly, I grew up watching Mickey's Christmas Carol all the time. And it's every year when we have Christmas, like that's one of the movies that Sarah Riley and I watch every year. So no, it's still classic, and I think it says something when you look at these movies. It's lasted a long time, and there haven't been any sort of like updates to it, right? People still watch the classic version because it's still that good. And there's not like a newer version that they put out there. Maybe they have, but it's not the one that people flock to, right? And so I would say that is great, not because we were 8.
And yeah, and then here's the thing: Christmas Carol has been done 1,000 times,
right?
And there are probably 5 or 6 versions that like people love, right? Like there was the motion capture one that they did a few years ago with Jim Carrey, and somebody may think that that's the best, or the version that came out with Patrick Stewart, maybe that's the best. But like there's
a George C. Scott version. There's a lot of versions. So,
and the Muppets Christmas Carol one is a lot of people's favorite, and I just love the Mickey Mouse one.
Right. Yeah, they're both great.
Speaking of my favorite Christmas movie, and it is a classic, but it is on my radar that they are doing either a sequel to it or an update to it. And I guess the premise still works in a modern society. But even I'm gonna be honest with you, my favorite Christmas movie is a Christmas movie sequel, because I am more partial to Home Alone 2 than I am to Home Alone.
Right.
I think, and to me, the movie still holds up if you can get past the fact that Harry and Marv probably would die multiple times from Kevin McAllister's like booby traps.
Right.
Especially in the second one when Kevin McAllister chucks bricks off of that will kill somebody.
Or the lead pipe that went down the stairs that hit them both, and they either been decapitated or that would have been permanent brain damage just from that alone. Yeah.
But they're so funny and they're so creative. And Home Alone came out when I was 8. Home Alone 2 came out when I was 10. And you wanted to be Kevin McAllister. Oh yeah. I'll send you a photo. You can put it up in the YouTube video of me right here. Put the photo right here. I'm pointing to it.
Okay.
I looked like I could be Kevin McAllister when I was 10. Now I've obviously aged and grown a lot. But keep that picture up there because I wanted to be Kevin McAllister. Like I wanted to build stuff that was cool like that. And I was kind of hoping that somebody would break into my house so that we could do booby traps. Like I
think all of us did that because I remember planning that because I remember thinking, going through a catalog and wanted to get that little thing that you would go from like a zip line type of thing, right? Yeah, like from your house. Because I had the idea of I can put it in my window in my house and zip line it to the shed in our backyard to get out if that ever happened, right?
Did you ever do stuff like take a bucket full of something and put it at the top of your door with it kind of open so that whoever came in the bucket tipped over? And
never made it that far. No.
Yeah. I would do that stuff all the time. I had a bunch of siblings, so I could test that stuff out.
Right.
on people. But I love it. I loved Home Alone, and it was a big part of it. I also remember, I'll tell you this, Home Alone 2 specifically, when I was in 5th grade, when I was 10 in 1992, that was the year that as a group of siblings, we asked for money. We did not want to get presents. We wanted to get money. So my parents gave us money. And then the next day after Christmas, we all went to the mall and we could buy our own stuff. And I remember at the end of the day, the 4 of us decided that we wanted to go see Home Alone. So that was the first time I'd ever gone to the movies and spent my own money on it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So it's special for me, but I think it still kicks ass.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and what's funny is Home Alone 2 is also on my list, but kind of for different reasons. So it is also one of my favorite movies growing up and of all time. I mean, it's not my go-to Christmas movie now, but it's definitely has a special place in my heart as well too. I remember I was in 3rd grade when that movie came out and I was obsessed with it. I remember all my classmates remember me freaking out when we found out for our Christmas pageant or Christmas concert that we were going to sing a couple of the choral songs that you heard in the movie. I was like, yes, this is going to be awesome. I love this, And so it's definitely my favorite movie growing up. But what I specifically remember that I still love, and again, kind of goes with the, Mr. Christmas, Mickey Mouse musical bells that I still wish I had, was I had 2 gifts that year that was just, I remember being part of my childhood so well, is the Home Alone book bag that I got and the Talk Boy that I got, which funny enough, I talked to Sarah about this, and she said when she was growing up, she got the Talk Girl. So we thought that was really funny that we both, had those and we loved that. But I love my book bag because if you've ever seen it or remember growing up with it, it was really cool because it looks just like the one that Kevin McAllister had, except for the Home Alone 2 branding on it. But then you could put some batteries in where you would unlatch the book bag, And if you flip the switch on and someone didn't realize it and they unlocked it, it did the Kevin McAllister scream as like it's alarm to tell you that somebody's getting in when they're not supposed to, right? So I had that bag, I think, for at least like 3 years. And if I didn't take it to school with me, I use it, if we're going to sleepovers or whatever. But I remember loving that and loving, having the talkboard. I used the talkboard to record stuff all the time. Like even just took it up to the TV while I was, the movie was playing on VHS and everything. I would just record like bits and scenes and like reenact it and mime it and things like that. So yeah, so I think it's funny that we both had Home Alone 2 on that list. So
yep.
Oh yeah.
And the Talkboy is going to come up later in the game that we're going to play.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So on the same topic of, because we, like we said before, we're kind of on that cusp of being 80s kids, 90s kids. I just want to mention one that I can't, that like I'm undecided on A Christmas Story. Okay.
Right.
I'm going to give it a fair shot this holiday season. But one of the ones that I absolutely cannot stand is the Tim Allen Santa Claus movies.
What?
Yeah, I just can't do it.
I can understand Santa Claus 3 because that one was a little hokey.
They're all hokey to me.
I loved it. I absolutely and I'll be honest, like I was that kid who wanted to be Santa Claus when he grew up too, So like when that movie came out, I loved it for that reason because it's like like anyone could be Santa if they just pushed him off the roof. Like I am doing it.
I've spent most of the time since cultivating the body that would allow me to be Santa.
Right.
If the rest of my hair will go white and then my beard will come in a little bit more full, I think I can make a pretty good case, pretty strong resume.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it never clicked. It never clicked with me. Story, I don't know, it all kind of sucks. I'm sorry.
It's I mean, and we can't all like the same thing and everything, but I know for me, like it's definitely still a big part. Like even though I just said these are 3 Christmas movies I absolutely love, the Santa Claus is also up there too.
How do you feel about The Grinch That Stole Christmas, the original like animated one?
I mean, it's a classic in the sense that everybody watched it growing up and everything. I think it's interesting that since then we've had 3 versions that came out, and so we never had like an updated version between the one that came out like in the 50s, right? And then the first one that came out, like, was it the Jim Carrey version one that came out first? Yeah. And so and then after that, then we had like a new Benedict Cumberbatch one, and then I think another one out there too, right? I
think those are the only 2. Here's my hot take. Here's my hot take about The Grinch Who Stole Christmas.
Yeah.
Okay. People always debate about whether like what's better, the book or the movie. And the first animated Grinch Who Stole Christmas, I think, is a prime example of like the movie being better than the book, because the book is obviously a classic, but the Boris Karloff's narration and then the music that's in the movie is so iconic now that it's almost like the movie has become more the 30-minute movie has become more iconic than the actual the book. Oh yeah.
I mean, most people watch the movie and hardly ever read the book with it, I mean, for that reason, just like you said, the narration was great, and the song, that wasn't in the book, but it's definitely inspired by the book, is now a popular holiday song. So yeah.
So getting back to the thing that we just talked about, Home Alone 2, was it great, or were we 8? Oh man, it was great.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Still is.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna, before we play a game, Sean, actually, you had some people who responded on social media with some of their was it great or were their favorite things from Christmas past.
Yeah, definitely. So we had some people that responded to our Instagram story that we posted a while back, and Tony Schaub from Instagram, and his username is, just spell like his name, TONYSCHAAB.
Shout out to Tony, because he's our favorite Comic-Con like event host.
Right.
He was the guy that hosted the trivia and the spelling bee.
Right.
At PopCon in Indiana.
Right. Yeah. So he shared that his favorite thing about the holidays growing up is watching Christmas Story movie. So I don't know how you'll feel about that.
I'll have to get back to you, Tony.
Right. Elizabeth Lambert, who was a guest on our show not too long ago, her Instagram name is little.lasagna, Lizzagna. And she said that hers was something called Popple, which is an alternative to Care Bears, which, to be honest, I've never heard of before. So I had to look that up.
I'm looking it up on the internet.
Yeah.
And it looks like something from the mid 80s. I think they were like, it was like a plush that could like fold in on itself. So it would be like,
maybe
like hunched over in a hug, and then the arms would pop out and it would be more, yeah, they like folded in on themselves. They like came like it made it look like they were in their own pouch, like a kangaroo.
Right. Yeah. I just when I looked it up, I never remember seeing this sort of thing. So
I'm gonna tell you right now, creepy as all get out, to be honest. Very, very creepy. So
Again,
Liz, was it great? Was it great, or were you 8? You were 8.
And then our last response was from Ronell Whitaker, and his username is the comic book teacher, all one word. And he said his most memorable gift ever is something that you had shared, the Nintendo Entertainment System, NES. So thank you all for sharing that.
When I got the NES, of course, it came with the Duck Hunt gun and Super Mario Brothers and stuff that.
Yep.
So I guess my dad must have told my grandfather in Kansas that we were getting the NES. And so he sent us a game, and I guess my dad didn't realize that's what it's for.
Right.
Like didn't realize that's what was in it. And we ended up opening that on Christmas Eve, and it was Pac-Man, and we got Pac-Man for the Nintendo. We're like, we don't even have a Nintendo. And
nice.
Yeah. Then we got one the next morning from Santa Claus.
Awesome.
Okay, so we're going to play a little game now, and we've already mentioned a couple of the toys on this because they are legendary toys. But what I did is I looked back at the most popular toys from the era that we spent as children. I was born in 82. You were born in 84. So I did the 15 years between 86 and 2000. Okay. And we're going to play a game called Had It, Wanted It, or Hated It.
All right.
So I'm gonna tell you the year. I'm gonna name the toy, or I'll maybe see if you can guess the toy.
Okay.
That was the most popular, and then we'll talk about whether or not we had it, we wanted it, or we hated it. It's like what's it? Kiss, Marry, Kill.
Right. Like what they played in Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Yeah. So had it, wanted it, hated it. So starting in 1986.
And are we doing every year or just a few?
I was gonna go through this real quick.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So 1986 to 2000, when we were children. I turned 18 in 2000 and graduated high school. So I guess the Christmas of 2000, I would have been a freshman in college.
Gotcha.
I was still pretty immature. So I still play. I mean, I'm 40 now and I still play with toys.
Right.
1986, Teddy Ruxpin.
Had it. And it was pretty creepy, if I remember. Yeah.
Okay, that's gonna fall into wanted it territory for me, because Teddy Ruxpin was legit cool,
right,
at the time, but was just out of our price range, especially with as many kids as we had in my family.
Right.
So always wanted one, not willing to spend the money to like buy into that nostalgia now.
Right.
1987. The Koosh Ball.
Had it.
I think so too. I think I had a Koosh Ball too. They were pretty inexpensive because they're just a little.
They're cheap. Yeah.
Yeah, just a little rubber ball.
Right.
But they were fun to play with, and from what we know now about like textures and the way we interact with things, like that probably played a big reaction because of the novelty of like the little tentacles and things like that.
Right.
1988, the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Had it.
Yeah,
who didn't?
Had it, loved it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you imagine like being a kid back then that didn't have an NES?
I know. Well, and I remember my cousins had it, I think, for a year or two before I eventually got it. And so I remember wanting to always go to their house to play it for that reason, but we eventually got one. So yeah, I know
I had a friend tell me a story one time. I'm not going to mention any names, but like his neighbors got a Nintendo like before they did, and they really loved playing it, and they would go over there and play all the time.
Mhm.
And one time he wanted to go over and play Nintendo, but his friends weren't there, his neighbor wasn't there, so he snuck into his friend's like bedroom window and just sat in their bedroom and played Nintendo.
Mhm.
And then his friend's mom came home, and he was just sitting in there playing Nintendo. His friend's mom came home. He's like, what are you doing? So yeah, like he was like 10 years old and like breaking and entering to play Nintendo.
Nice.
So I think that alone cements its legendary status.
Right.
1989. You want to guess what the follow-up to Nintendo was?
Was it Super Nintendo?
No, not quite.
I mean,
yet.
that didn't come out until a while.
Like 91 or 92.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
The Game Boy.
Oh my gosh, the Game Boy. Yes.
The Game Boy.
Had it.
I did not.
Oh, really?
I did not have it. I had a lot of siblings. Everybody could play the Nintendo at home.
Right.
When you play the Game Boy, like they weren't buying into that.
Right. Well, and if you wanted to play together or whatever, you had to buy a second Game Boy and then connecting cable. But yeah, I had that. And one of my favorite games playing on the Game Boy was Super Mario 3 and Home Alone.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So one of the I wanted the Game Boy,
mm-hmm.
but I hated everybody that had one because of it.
Sorry, man.
Yeah.
And that was when it was in light green and dark green.
Yeah. 1990, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh my gosh. Like what? Just in general had it. Yeah.
Like the action figures. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You know, in Target was reselling those nostalgic Turtles toys at the stores where you remember like when they came in with the little square orange things where you had like twist off their weapons and stuff like that. They were selling those again.
Oh, nice.
For our group.
I have a throwback Ninja Turtle that is like the comic book version action figure, and it's nice. It's signed by Kevin Eastman, the person who created the Ninja Turtles. But I don't have any of my original like Ninja Turtles.
Right. Yeah.
Now, one of the pluses to having a lot of siblings is that my brother Kyle, when he turned 6 in the summer of 1990, he got like nearly all of the toys for his birthday.
Right.
So like I had a jump on playing with him. I think he had all 4 Ninja Turtles, and we had Casey Jones and Master Splinter and maybe Mr. Shredder
and April O'Neil.
I don't know that we had April O'Neil.
Okay, gotcha.
But speaking of April O'Neil, like I was mad in love with the cartoon version of April O'Neil.
Every boy was
until Rogue came along.
Yeah,
she was my lady in yellow. Right. I remember like going to the skating rink and they had the Ninja Turtles pinball machine.
Oh yeah,
and she's featured prominently on the on the artwork. Yeah,
yep.
So I loved April O'Neil.
Did you have the Turtles van growing up?
We didn't have the Turtles van.
Okay.
I want to say that the reason why we had so many of the action figures is because they were birthday presents from people who came to his birthday party.
Right.
And his birthday is in the middle of July, so he got to have a birthday party that year. And my birthday is at the end of August. And so between July of that year and September of that year is when my parents got married in September of that year.
Okay.
And
gotcha.
And I was 8 and I turned 8 that year, and I didn't get the birthday party, but it didn't bother me because like Kyle had already had the Ninja Turtles and we played together. Like he he needed to play with somebody. We played together.
Right.
But yeah, I had a jump start on them. So I had those and loved those. Still to this day, love those.
Right.
1991. This was a fad. Okay. 1991. Pogs.
I think I technically had it, but I never was really into it. I think I had it because everybody else had it, but I was never really.
You had to have some so that you were cool, but
I mean, I not even that. Like it was just like everybody else played it, so I was like, might as well. But I remember we ended up getting Pogs banned from our school because at one point, and this was my class that was responsible for it. I guess at one point somebody was playing for keeps and somebody had lost like their $50 slammer that they got.
Uh-huh.
in a
I'm
game.
still to this day am fairly
So hold on, sorry. So because they lost it in the game and everything, I guess the parents that found out that they lost it, they told the principal, and then the principal came out and said pogs are no longer allowed at school because it's considered gambling.
Yeah. I still to this day am unsure that I know exactly how to play, like if we were ever playing it the right way.
Oh yeah, I don't know. Well, and what's interesting is I feel like Pokemon is some sort of version of that, but yeah, I remember
it was more about
having it, and it
was more about collecting the discs and the slammers than it ever was about actually playing the game,
right?
Because you could show them off,
right?
1992, the height of the reign of the purple dinosaur, Talking Barney.
I was never into it, but my brother Kenny loved Barney, so we probably had it.
We probably had it. We can make fun of Kenny for it. I love you, Kenny.
Yeah. We had to play it all the time because that's what he rocked out to. So yeah.
Yeah. My younger brothers were born in 91 and 92. So there was a lot of Barney in our house.
Right.
I'm fairly certain one of those guys had a Barney birthday cake at some point.
Oh yeah. Kenny did.
1993, the year after Home Alone came out, this toy was extremely popular. 1993 was the Talk Boy.
After, you mean Home Alone 2 came out?
Yeah, Home Alone 2. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, had it.
Yep.
Yep. And apparently
I did not have it. And then once again, I hated everybody that did.
Right. But and what I remember about the Talk Boy is I loved it, but apparently either they didn't make this version or there were two different versions of it. Because in the movie how there's like a slow version that you could play back in slow in slow speed. My Talk Boy did not have that, and for the longest time, my dad and I were trying to figure out like how to mimic the slow speed. And the closest thing my dad could figure out is why don't you just hold up against the tape. Because if you physically press against the tape, it would slow down like how fast it would play. And so we would do that, but it never actually got to the point where it slowed it down enough to make it sound like it was deeper. So, yeah.
1994, a new group of heroes has come onto the scene. You would have been 10 years old. You probably were big into this.
Right.
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I definitely watched the show. I don't know if I ever actually bought any toys associated with it, but I watched the show and I played Power Rangers on the playground as a kid all the time. So yeah.
So in 1994, I was 12. I was in the 7th grade. I had two younger brothers. One would have been 3. One was 2. And at about that time, they were big into Power Rangers and started getting Power Ranger toys. And I was like, Bart, I'm too old for this. like they're not going to buy me Power Rangers, and I really want Power Rangers.
Right.
But I loved it. Like the show, it was always on TV as soon as we got off of the bus every day. Because my brothers were there watching it. So yeah, Power Rangers was big time. I didn't have any personally. I wanted them.
Right. Gotcha.
1995, this craze was sweeping the nation. And people were buying these up left and right because one day they were going to be worth tons and tons of money. I'm talking about none other than Beanie Babies.
Our family had it. I did not care for it.
Yep. We had them and I hated them.
Right. Yeah.
Like my mom collected a few of them and I couldn't stand them. They're stupid.
Yeah. Same here. Yeah.
Following year, Tickle Me Elmo, 1996.
Oh my gosh. That was a popular toy for a long time too. Like well beyond 96. Didn't have it. I don't know if my younger brothers had it. Maybe they did, but I don't remember it. I feel like I never really caught on to that fad until I was in my adulthood, like post high school. So
I remember it being a big deal and not understanding why it was such a big deal. I remember like Jay Leno and stuff, like making jokes and stuff about the shortage of Tickle Me Elmo and stuff like that. So
right. Yeah.
That's one that if I had to say it, I hated it. Like it never clicked with me.
Right.
1997. Here we go. I'm in high school now.
Yeah.
You've probably finally got hair under your arms, which probably for the same, like I was a late bloomer, so it's probably the same for me.
I was about to say I was actually early bloomer, so I probably actually had it before you did.
you like listen, you were probably 2 inches taller than me at this point as well.
I was always tall growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was probably 5'1" in 1997.
Oh,
and you were probably 6'1" already.
I was 5'1", probably in fourth grade. Yeah. Third or fourth grade. Yeah.
So 1997, Tamagotchi.
The what?
Tamagotchi.
I never had it. I don't think I've ever had it.
The little digital egg that was like the digital pets.
Oh, yeah. Whatever.
I also like, yeah, I was indifferent to the whole thing because it came along too far after. It came along too far after. But here's the thing: is it evolved the next year? The next year, the most popular toy was also an interactive pet, but it was no longer like a digital LCD screen. It was a tiny little
Furby,
bird-faced gremlin that we know and love as Furby.
Yeah, and we had it. My brother loved it. We named a dog after that. We had a dog named Furby. And I remember the controversy around those was that and I don't know if this was true or not, but I remember, you saw in the news that some people reported that they found cameras in there and that the Chinese government was spying on. Oh, really? I'm going to have to look this up now. But yeah, like the Chinese government was spying on Americans because somebody found a camera inside of Furby. I remember that was a huge thing. So, yeah.
I didn't have a Furby. I don't think it was once again like one of those things that was on the news and on late night talk about the popularity and the people couldn't find them and people were fighting over them and things like that. I never understood any of it. I will say that one of my favorite things to watch on YouTube now is Good Mythical Morning with Rhett and Link, and every once in a while they have a show where they try new and inventive ways to destroy a Furby.
They hated it too.
They've like guillotined a Furby and stuff like that. They've done some really crazy fun things. Like things that I wish.
YouTube.
Yeah. So Furbies I didn't get.
Right.
I didn't hate it, but I didn't get it.
Right.
1999. Gotta catch them all. Pokemon.
I was never into Pokemon.
Never into Pokemon. My younger brothers were, and a lot of that stuff bled into my consciousness. I still remember a handful of like Pokemon things of stuff about Pokemon. I have a younger brother that looks like a Snorlax, which is the giant like soft teddy bear. And then I can't remember if it was around that time or shortly after that the Pokemon Stadium came out for the Nintendo 64.
Right. Oh yeah.
I loved playing Pokemon Stadium because all the mini games in it were great, and you could plug 4 controllers into a Nintendo 64 and play with all your siblings.
Oh yeah, that was like the huge thing. Yeah.
I loved that. So Pokemon, I didn't have like cards or anything, but that's I did have like the one of the video games. We didn't have Game Boy, so we never had any of the classic Pokemon video games.
Yeah, and I don't think my brothers were ever into it. If any of them were, it may have been my youngest brother Luke, but I just remember it was never really a thing around our house. But I mean, Riley loves playing Pokemon, so of course I'm learning a little bit more about Pokemon now. But yeah, at that time,
and it's managed to stay in the consciousness of pop culture for 20 plus years and evolve into other things. And so that's one of the things I wish might have died off sooner, but it's still going strong. Last one, tier 2000. We're both, I'm 18, you're 16. We probably neither one of us had this, but we might have both wanted it. And that was the Razor scooter.
I had one.
You had one?
I had one. I don't know if I had it that year.
Cool tricks.
This one, I can't remember.
Can I ask a question? How did your big ass ride a Razor scooter? Seems like the most comical thing to watch a 6'7" dude ride a tiny little Razor scooter.
I mean, I had to hunch over a little bit, but I mean, it extended up pretty far up. So, and I didn't get it when it came out, but I got it, I think my senior year in high school. So it would have been around, I graduated in 2003. So I would have had it in 2002. Cause I was not the mascot for our football team, but I was one of the spirited people that would like paint themselves up and everything. And me and my buddy in high school at the time would be like one of the front people that like really got the cheers riled up and everything. Or got the audience riled up and everything. And I remember having the Razor scooter go up and down the track just to like go up and down the bleachers all the time. So like, that's what I use it for primarily, nothing else. So,
okay. Yeah. A few questions. Number one, what was your high school mascot?
Well, at the time it's Rebels. Now I think they're called the Royals because my high school has a little bit of a racist history. So,
okay, that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
I just think that you would be a great high school mascot. Like if you put you in a like a suit for like the Grizzly Bears or whatever, it would be like,
right.
That's an intimidating looking thing. But here's the thing, now that you've mentioned that you've had a scooter and I want to see you ride one. So I have two ideas. Number one is I think you should get one and do some scooter riding for our TikTok channel because good. I think that would be really popular. But then I want to buy you a Razor scooter and a Chewbacca costume so that we can go to Comic-Cons and you can be Scoobacca.
It's got to be one of the motorized ones though, so that way I could like
how awesome would it be to see like you cruising at like a convention floor as Chewbacca on a Razor scooter? Like, forget the Millennium Falcon. This is how I get around the galaxy.
Right? Yeah. Oh, that'd be awesome. Let's do it. We gotta do it. When we finally get over to San Diego Comic-Con, we need to like invest the money to do that.
You'll be Scoobacca and I'll do some sort of play on Han Solo.
Yeah. We'll figure that out. That's a great idea.
Yeah. Oh man, good stuff. So Christmas, guys, we only got a few days left of this year, 2021. Christmas is upon us. It's always fun to look back at where you've been before we go forward, and looking back on the Christmas of our childhood. I mean, it's hard to get together now and not think about, hey, you remember that one Christmas with your family?
Right.
And Sean and I have probably both been in the situation where now, like, we look back and, hey, you remember that one Christmas where our so-and-so got mad and stormed out? Because as an adult, your memories kind of shift from the toy that you got to the argument that you got into.
Right.
But man, this was fun to think about the things that we had as kids and to think about how, like, you can look back and see how the world has changed based on the toys and stuff that we got and how all of that stuff evolved. It's super interesting. And this was a fun little exercise. Mm-hmm. I got an idea for next year's episode.
Okay.
We didn't talk about Die Hard.
Right.
Okay. It's a big debate about whether Die Hard is a Christmas movie. So if you're listening to this podcast, come back 24 episodes from now, December of 2022. We're going to talk about our favorite movies that are set at Christmas but aren't about Christmas. And we'll do the definitive podcast on that. And Die Hard will be a part of it.
Right. Okay? Yep.
Sounds good. That wraps up another episode of The Caption Life. We hope you'd enjoyed listening to this one. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button on whatever major podcast platform you listen to. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram, other social media at Caption Life. And if you like what we're doing, give us a shout out, tag us in your post, ask us a question, leave us a review. We love the fan interaction. For more info about us and all of our previous episodes, please visit thecaptionlife.com. And until next time, Merry Christmas.
Have a happy holiday. Ho, ho, ho.
You filthy animal.